Any form of discrimination really bothers me, and in the name of so much we discriminate.
Being your authentic self is far less work than being someone else.
I think one of the things I learned is, yes, rebellion is all very wonderful, but you have to actually prove it.
When I was building bank, everybody was saying, are you crazy? What are you thinking? It's not possible.
So basically, in our organization, Bharat Soka Gakkai, the philosophy which we practice is about empowering people, empowering human beings. And incidentally, the membership of our organization, 70% are women. So we feel that if we need to empower people, they need to really believe in themselves. And they also need to believe in others' potential. And they should also have conviction in their own value system. And at the same time, they should be very passionate about what they are doing and what they want to achieve.
Like, you know that the organization comprises of 70% of women, Bharat Soka Gakkai. So we are there to empower the women by helping them believe in their potential, by helping them believe in their own life, how they can, when they believe, like unless we believe, we'll not be able to bring out that potential. So the starting point is belief. So this is how in our day-to-day lives also, as ordinary women, we are trying to believe in our own potential, then work hard, manifest great courage, compassion, hope, wisdom from our own life to be able to achieve what we want to achieve.
So Bharat Soka Gakkai is an organization which is involved in the movement of peace, culture, education and sustainability. We have 4 speakers today, and we also have a moderator who is of equal stature. So the moderator is Tillotama Shome, who is a well-known actor, and she has done a lot of good work in the industry in the last many years. Then we have 4 panelists. So the one panelist is Nandita Das, who is also an actor from the Bollywood industry. She again has done a lot of good work. The second one is Chetna, who actually runs microfinance for rural women. She is the one who really set up these microfinance banks in rural part of India and could help so many women entrepreneurs to give wings to their desires and feelings and ambitions and goals. The third, we have Minakshi Achan, who is a marketing and communication expert. And this being a male-dominated industry, as a woman, she has done a lot of good work. And finally, we have Dr. Anjana. She is a professor. She currently heads English department in Delhi University. So the thought behind having this varied line of speakers is that how they belong to different industry, different experience, but the theme of the symposium, which is the women who believe are the women who build, that runs across as a common thread amongst all the 4 speakers. So we wanted the audience to hear to these 4 speakers. They had their own lives, they had their own goals, they are not similar to each other, but then the only common thread is that they are women and they believed in themselves and they believed in others, and that is why they could achieve what they have achieved up till now.
Your core remains the same, and both my parents are very altruistic in their nature, and without learning the isms, they are secular, they are feminists, they are sort of inclusive more than anything else. So I think any form of discrimination really bothers me, and in the name of so much we discriminate, right? In the name of gender, class, caste, color of our skin, region, language, name it, we are very quick at discriminating. So that's something that really bothers me. And
I'm not someone who, believes in a monolithic kind of belief, like there's this one line or this one film or, one thing. So there's so many amazing influences in my life. My mother, she's an incredibly joyous woman. And no matter what the difficulties of life are, her smile is radiant. So I was born to a woman like that who continues to be like that 70 years later as well, you know. So she's been a huge part of allowing me to believe in my potential when the world does not. And but she's one huge reason why I'm here. The other is Daisaku Ikeda, my mentor, who I read his writing when I was 17 years old and very confused about, but what am I meant to do with my life? My friends had the luxury of being very clear that they wanted to be, you know, pursue medicine or law. I wasn't sure at all what I wanted to do because I couldn't find anything I was good at. And when I read Preston Ikeda's words, it became very clear to me that each of us actually has a very unique mission to fulfill. And one just needs to figure what that is. And it could be many things, not just a singular thing, you know. So that really helped me again, that I don't have to fix my identity, that I am this or I am that. Like, you know, I studied science, then I went into, you know, I had biology, I had maths, I had physics, chemistry, but then I went and studied literature, and then I went and studied theatre, and I might study something else. And the sense of identity not being a monolith, fixed thing, but as something that's fluid, that really comes from my mentor's writing, his teaching, his own life. You know, he used to play the piano, he was also a diplomat.
Don't give up on yourself and don't give up on the other person. I mean, if I was to say it in a single line is, sometimes you're disappointed, sometimes it isn't what you want, but I think persistence and perseverance and ultimately believing that it'll work out for them and for you, you know, and also to create happy spaces. You know, I think that's what has been my life's work. You know, that people go out of the classroom feeling, I can do it too. You know, or somebody believes in me. That's the more important one. That they're not looking at me through eyes of, like I told that person, no low scorer in my class.
You know, actually, I mean, I saw the countryside of India. I moved in India from villages to villages. I met these women who are always on the field, who are working. But their whole idea of coexistence is so strong. And I felt that whatever I learned in the university, I was in Mumbai University, then I went to Yale, Harvard. But the lessons which I learned from women who were on the ground were very different. And I would say that those lessons were like lessons of coexistence, lessons of harmony. When I say harmony, what I mean is that whenever we used to have a drought, women would say that, you know, if our animals cannot survive, we also cannot survive. Imagine this whole idea that I have a one family with my loved ones, and in that loved ones, even animals are there. So I think the core idea is that coexistence of yourself, your loved ones, and in your loved ones, you have your trees, your animals. That's what I have learned from these women.
I mean, ideally, I wish we could all just be human beings and not have to carry our gender so heavily. But the reality is that the identity of being a woman just doesn't leave you, because for better or for worse, you're constantly reminded of it. But I would just say that, you know, I mean, speaking up, it seems more difficult than it is. Because when you do speak up about anything, you know, if somebody else is getting abused and you speak up, or you're feeling a certain emotion and you speak up, or somebody is abusing you and you want to speak up, or you want to just speak up about a dream that you have or a desire that you have, the fear of the consequences sometimes, you know, just completely suppresses that emotion, and that's how we slowly just kill ourselves. So I think just to have that little strength, and I know it's easier said than done, because, you know, your bringing and your exposure and the confidence that your world has given you or not impacts it. But from my experience and from what I've seen and from my own experience, I would say that speaking up, once you do speak up, you know, you feel such a sense of relief and such a sense of freedom that you did it, you know, you did it, and how bad can it get? and you will fight it, and you will find a way to deal with it. But if you don't speak up, you haven't even tried. So I would just say, if I had to say, then I would just say that, get the courage and get good friends and people who can support you.
What I can say about myself is that being your authentic self is far less work than being someone else. So I think the lazy Bengali in me would choose authenticity, because I'm an actor by profession. It's not something I want to do when I'm not acting in front of a camera. I'd like to be myself, because otherwise it's quite exhausting. So yeah.
So I have been a rebel and I have not heard, but I think I was fortunate in the way I was raised, that my rebellion was allowed. It had nothing to do with me, it was very much to do with my parentage. So I think people have to, especially women, firstly should have a sense of, and this was done by the panel, have a sense of who they are without something else defining them. And then moving the frames away, and then trying to discern who they are, and then staying the course with it, even through challenges, because it doesn't come easy.
We are always taking 2 steps forward and 2 steps backward. There are things happening, women are speaking up more, we are getting educated, all of that. But it's still very, very difficult, right? There's still infanticide, there's still dowry deaths, there's still abuse, there's a whole lot of things. So I would like all that to change.
I think a basic requirement is safety. I think women around the world and women in India, we've grown up with a sense of violence being prevalent to the point that we are desensitized to it, So I think if I had one wish, it would be that for the safety of women and the sanity of men who think they can violate a woman's safety without any repercussions to their own health, to their own mental, emotional health, That would be my biggest thing. I mean, the laundry list of wishes are long, pay parity, etc. But I think the basic would be a woman's right to live and a woman's right to live safely would be the basics, yeah.
There is structured formal education, which even in India now people can return to. There is more openness towards it. There are open universities, they allow you to do the courses later. But I think it's not only about structured education. It is about always staying curious and wanting to know more, especially if you are women who are in home with younger people. You need to stay with their narrative and be a little ahead of it. Don't let societal expectations, your own belief that societal expectations are so powerful that they will forever define you, allow to limit your potential. They should not confine you. Take the expectation and then do what you want to do, which means really actually working a lot on yourself. You can't say things are there in my environment, because they're always going to be there in our environment. But I think self-belief and the ability to do hard work, there is no substitute. Doing well in your life or your career means, so there's a line from an Irish poet I like very much, William Butler Yeats. He said, you must labor to be beautiful. So you must labor to be beautiful. And beautiful not cosmetically, yes, but the notion of beauty in its fullness.
One thing I want to share with women all across the world is that when I was building bank, everybody was saying, are you crazy? What are you thinking? It's not possible. And who was saying? All these hi-fi people, highly educated, and I could understand that, because it is a very huge task. But they would say, but women who had not been to the school, but who were actually being very strong in their foundation, working on the field, they were like, it's, what are we asking? We are not asking anything. We are actually mobilizing the community capital and setting up. So I would like to say that if these women who were with me at the Central Bank of India could convince that, you know, we can build the bank. I would tell across the world that whatever you believe in your heart, even if you think that other people think it's impossible, it may be possible. You just have to believe in your heart, be courageous, and do which you strongly believe.
Pennsylvania State University and a postgraduate from the University of Delhi. Ms. Tillotama Shome is best known for her acclaimed portrayal of Alice in Meera Nair's Monsoon Wedding. Holding this spirit close to our heart, let us invite the Arts Division members of Bharat Soka Gakkai to present a cultural performance.
To inspire, and most importantly, to share in the powerful message of the symposium's theme, Women Who Believe Are the Women Who Build. This theme, while simple in its clarity, holds a profound truth. When a woman believes in her worth, her inherent strength, her boundless potential, she embarks on a journey of transformation.
And Nandita, because you're looking at me, I'm going to start with you. So Nandita, I was 17 years old when I read these words by Daisaku Ikeda. True success or failure in life will not be apparent until you reach your 40s or 50s. I was 17 when I read this. Now, this is in stark contrast to our industry, which forces women to vanish after a certain age. What do you do to power through an industry that is so ageist and so externally driven?
Yeah, I was looking at you because you're my friend as well. You know, you just don't be part of the game, you don't play the game. If you see my work, I've always been on the periphery of the industry, and by choice. I actually never wanted to be an actor or a filmmaker or to do anything to do with film, so I literally stumbled upon it. And I did my master's in social work, I was working in an NGO, and slowly, because of the opportunities I was getting as a public person, I was being called to talk at various forums, and I used to think, when I actually did the work, nobody called me. And now that I've done a few films, I'm being invited to talk about various things. But I saw it as an opportunity to talk about things that I really deeply cared for. And one is constantly reflecting, and you're right, 40s, 50s, women just become invisible. They start vanishing. I get roles of, to play mother of a 35, 40-year-old man, you know, I mean, I'm like, really? I could have been if I had a child marriage, or I could easily have a child of 25, 30. I'm a late mother, so my child is still 14 and who keeps me nice and young. But it's not just in the industry. In society, the anxiety that we are inducing about how we look it's a burden that none of us are being able to escape. It's a matter of degrees. You know, I might look at people and say, oh my God, that kind of obsession is crazy. And you know, I might see myself as being less obsessed, but then am I truly free of those pressures? You know, I'm having a hair fall, I'm worrying about it, I'm like, oh my God, my wrinkles, I'm not going to a dermatologist, I'm not doing anything about it because it's the 11th important thing in my life and I barely can do 5. So it's very low down on my priority. But you know, the burden of that, and especially in an industry that celebrates how you look more than anything else. It's not even beautiful. Those adjectives are gone out of our vocabulary. Now it's about grooming and packaging and looking sexy and appealing, and look at all the advertisements. I mean, I'm sure there is a struggle there. You're from the advertising world as well, and the lady who inspiringly, really inspired us, where are you? I don't know, Mrs. Sharma, who spoke so beautifully. You know, it's all around us. Whether it's magazines, whether it's hoardings, whether it's films, whether it's television, there is a prototype of what a woman should look like. And this pressure of all of us wanting or having to fit into it is completely unrealistic. Nothing is telling us that just celebrate who you are, or don't even think about it. Why should we be burdened by that? All of us are much more than what we look, but we are never told that. So I think you just have to believe, that's the word for today, that you truly have to have deep convictions that you are really more than that, you are more than that. Every one of us is. So I think then that frees you from that burden. So the noise will always be there. You know, when you have deep convictions, then you don't struggle, you don't fight with yourself, because the convictions give you that courage. So there is no temptation, there is no, you know, that battle inside is thankfully not there. But once in a while we are human, we get a little anxious and then we have to reset ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, the women in your films are free from these burdens, thankfully. So at least, if not in the real world, you've created a space in a fictional world where women can look at these women that you've written. And
you try to create those characters that are real women and you know, who are much more, like I said, who are much more than what they look.
Yeah.
And I've had the privilege of having Tillotama in my film. She did a wonderful cameo, but a very powerful story in Manto. So
Thank you for making me a part of your film and of your life. I really, really admire you, and thank you for being who you are.
Thank you. Ditto.
We should stop. Chetna ma'am, I want to ask you, Mann Deshi Mahila Bank was India's very first bank for and by rural women. But in 1996, there's a catch here. In 1996, when your first application for establishing the bank was rejected by the RBI on grounds that some of the promoting members were non-literate, how did you hold on to your belief?
So, it's very interesting. I mean, I do feel that when you want to hold on your belief, there is a lot of things goes on around you, right? In your studies there. But in my experience, I saw that when I'm born and raised in Mumbai, and I joined Gandhian organization and decided to work in countryside in the villages. And when I saw these women who have never been to the school, no degree, no travel, and they would come like, you know, we don't have water, and so we need that. Then they would come like, no electricity connection in the villages, so they'll come those days. Even now it's not very different, but yeah, and then I was really surprised when the street vendor, woman who is doing a business of blacksmith, comes and said that I want to do savings. And the obvious question was, you don't have even a house to stay, but you want to do saving.
my city education told me to ask a question like, do you have even money to save? But these women, these women and this woman actually was so insistent that I want to have a tarpaulin sheet to cover my family. In summer we have a more than 48 degrees Celsius and I'm staying with my children on the street. So that whole, that I want to save for my family and banks are not opening the account. That made them to come together that, okay, if banks are not opening the account, she's not asking for any money, no subsidy, no grant, but I want an opportunity to save my money at a safe place. That's what she was asking, right? And that also, if you all are denied, then women said that why don't we, that idea came, why can't we set up the bank for us? And yes, we went to Reserve Bank of India, and in '96, all these promoting members were non-literate, so they had some impression. On that ground it was denied that we cannot issue a license to the bank whose promoting members are non-literate. But as today's theme is right, that these women, they did not go to school, but they believed so strongly, so they said, so what? We will learn to read and write from today, right? It's like, I feel that thing can come in these women only, and from them we can learn, right? That they didn't think that, okay, at this age, how will go to school? Nothing. We'll do it today. And I was so excited to see how whole day they would work in sun, in the fields as a wage laborer. But in evening when it came to like go start a literacy class, there was so much of giggling and, we are going to learn and to read and write and count, and we are going to Reserve Bank of India to ask for the license. So that actually gave me so much confidence, and then after 5 months we applied again. I wasn't sure. I was thinking we are not going to get license. I was thinking that only. And I did not give any hopes to these women. I said like, let's go, let's see, let's meet officer. But when women, they entered the cabin, even like that Reserve Bank people say that this was the cabin where your women came. And they sat and they said, you know what? You denied the license because we cannot read and write. And they said, we can not read and write, but we can count, right? Every woman can count, right? Everyone can count. So, and we count here. And they challenged the officer, and I must have shared this like 1,000 times, right, Kalpana? Like 1,000 times. And they said, ask us to calculate the interest of any principal amount. If we fail, yeah, they said that. I never thought they will do that. If we fail, don't issue the license. But tell your officers to do it without calculator and see who can calculate fast. So, these are the women who believe and they can build, and these are the women who are my teachers now. So I'm so proud that, whatever I didn't learn, what a very big list was given with the introduction, the lessons and the wisdom which I learned from these women was that what were they saying when we got the banking license? In fact, what was the indication? Indication was that they had an idea, they believed that never give poor solutions to poor people. They are smart, right? They are smart. So they are using digital banking, digital wallet without school, and I'm so proud that today we have been able to, these women together, started with 15 women, have been able to impact 1 million women.
So incredible. Thank you. Yeah, it really is very, very humbling. And so are you, ma'am. I just want to share with everybody here, I want to thank everybody for braving the wonderful monsoon in Bombay and coming here. But ma'am has traveled for 6 hours from Satara to be with all of us here today. No, it's just, this is the next time I want to complain about moving around in Bombay, I will remember this evening. So thank you very much. Minakshi, You have thrived and continued to create value in the corporate world, which is very male-dominated. How did you learn to stand your ground and stay in the game?
Hello, right? Yes. So, firstly, I'm just absolutely nervous sitting with such accomplished women. So I really feel I have no right to be here. And I was just telling Neelu this, what am I doing here? But the corporate world, of course, can be a very hard, aggressive world. And I think I'm just barely surviving, if you want to know. So when I started my career, it's almost 38, 39 years ago. And I was fresh out of MBA schools. Whoever was dissing the MBA degrees, let me tell you, I think it has to be dissed, because that's what I did. My father had kind of forced me at that point of time to either become a doctor or an engineer. I thought an MBA was easier. So I went to IIM Bangalore, and I came out of it and I stole my certificates and threw it in the Arabian Sea, and I said, I want to be a creative person. And therefore I became a writer at Ogilvy, I think 38 years ago. And so, as a young person who was just starting out, and there were very few women at that time, and when you walked into a client's room, it's largely men, and a lot of them didn't even look at you. They pretended you didn't exist, and looked at, not into your eyes if at all. They accidentally passed your, if you're sitting around. But I guess over a period of time, you realize that, what you say is what matters. The value you add to the table is what matters. You have to be a voice on the table. You just can't keep quiet and get invisibilized. So it's so important to choose yourself at that point of time and actually speak up and say what you feel like. Because there are enough voices who try and drown you at that point of time. And they also see you as, okay, you're a woman, maybe you don't have anything to say in a banking client meeting, for example, and if it's a banker, or if anything which is, McDowell's, for example, is an alcohol brand, and alcohol beverages. And out there, they didn't have any women at all. So when you went in there and spoke to them about rum or whiskey, or you went to a car client and you spoke authoritatively about something, you don't really have them place any value what you're saying. But I think over a period of time, you realize that you just have to ignore all those voices and all the doubts which they have, and you can't start doubting yourself. So their doubts can't become yours, no matter what. So that's one thing. But it's also about, considering that we're on the topic of belief, to also understand who you are yourself. So the moment you understand your strengths and what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and then just make sure that is what you focus on. And I think over a period of time you realize in the corporate world, the color of money is not necessarily gendered, right? It's not blue or green or yellow. So eventually that's what matters, and then it's just a question of how are you adding value, how are you really raising the game at any meeting that you are. But yeah, it's been hard and it's been long, but I think you have to stay curious, find new ways to invent yourself, reinvent yourself constantly. And like you talked about digital banking and all of that, AI is the new big thing everybody's talking about. So I've got absolute FOMO. I'm trying to figure out now how do I stay afloat in this world.
Thank you. I think you will. And did you say 39 years? I can see 13.
I'm almost 60. So yeah.
We didn't hear that. Anjana ma'am. She's my professor, so it's not very easy doing it. I was her student, but I'm going to do this. Today, you are the head of Department of English at Delhi University. But I remember you as the young professor who never sat on a chair to give us a lecture. You were either walking around the classroom or sitting on a table. The lectures were dramatic, your attire was colorful, and your language of instruction far from formal. You were passionate and we all loved you. But you were also so very different from the others. What made you want to be an educator? And what was your approach? I could have never asked you that then, but I can today. It's great fun.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be here with all of you, and especially with you, Tillotama, who I have known in the last millennium, when she was my student. So that's telling, I'm sorry. But I think I think for me, what made me want to become an educator, I think I was just born that way. I don't think I made a choice. I think from the time I had any sort of consciousness about myself, I knew that one of the things I liked doing was trying to educate, which began, and I think I've shared it with some of you, when I came home from school as a little girl with my bag. I put my bag aside and did not do what normally children do when they come home, which is fling everything away and wail about their day and want to be petted and spoiled. I would line up my 7 dolls immediately and start teaching them whatever I had learned. So the poor dolls, there was no escape for them. And when the dolls became, unresponsive naturally, then Tillotama, I turned to whatever children I could find around me. And somehow or the other, I think they wanted to learn, or maybe they were just compelled into learning by me. And then subsequently, as we moved on, my peer group, I went only to girls' schools, but my students used to be the boys from the boys' school. I am pretty certain they came to study. I taught them. Some of them retired as generals in the Indian Army. They said that they passed the exam. So they did study, And I think when I found myself actually, of course you have to get your degrees and everything in order. When I found myself back at my alma mater, Lady Shri Ram College, where I encountered you, I had come back to LSR after 10 years because one of the things I was very clear about, that I was a very bright student of theirs, but I would never be their colleague unless I had earned my spurs. So I came back after 10 years. I never crossed the gate to get back again. And then I think magic just happened. For me, the classroom is a place which is miraculous. Of course, I work very hard to teach. It seems as if it is unlabored, but a lot of labor went into transmitting complex ideas. Because so everybody understands that medicine and engineering and MBA is very hard. Nothing is harder than trying to teach about ideas. And that is what literature does. It teaches ideas. And I think what happened in class after class after class was not that I was designing myself to be this irreverent person. Well, to answer your question, I'm still colorful. Yeah. I don't sit on tables anymore because for other reasons. But I sat on a table simply because I was short and I needed to see the back of the class. So that is a mystery which is solved for you now. Yeah. But I think what really worked for me with teaching was, from the very beginning, with my unspeaking dolls, is that when you can somehow awaken within the person who is probably not even interested in learning, they're there. One of the things as educators, 80% of the people are just there because they have to answer the question, Beta, what are you doing now? So because Beta has to answer what they are doing now, they're in your class, But what used to really, and that was my determination. I never looked at the brightest and the best because they would be there anyways. So I think from the very beginning I was focused on doing that conversion for myself and for them. That once you could suggest to them that life and literature and their life, and even Victorian literature, were not too far away, you would find almost like, there is this piece lying around and suddenly there is a glow, and then there is an ember, and then there is a fire. And I think for me the best gift of my life has been to sort of create a sense of each person being able to value their own self. It's not about being brilliant in class. That's easy.
And I think that's cheap also in some ways, you know, to go there and display how brilliant you are. You know, I think the important thing is making people understand, yes, I can do it too. And closing that gap between teacher and learner, professor and student, which I think unfortunately in our country we like to keep at a distance. So if you can speak in a language that is their language, and you need to work hard to be up to date with all languages as they go on. So you are relevant not only in terms of your academic endeavors, you're also relevant because they are surprised that you know about the things that interest them. And I think that is the bond that has always worked. And just watching people, you know, because at Delhi University we get students from diverse places. A lot of them are coming from less empowered spaces. And Delhi city can be very, very, you know, frightening for these kind of people. So to build that kind of confidence in their own mind and their own capabilities, I think the great mission or purpose or gift that my life has been given.
You certainly did that, because all through my school life, I was told that I'm below average, but my handwriting is neat. And that was my only saving grace. And then I came into college, and so the association, when as a young person you're constantly bracketed whether you are brilliant or average or below average, and your sense of self naturally gravitates towards that definition, and then all your actions kind of serve that definition. And then I came into college, which was very overwhelming, with LSR, with, you know, and then I saw you, which was also equally overwhelming, if I have to be honest, because your eyes were quite something and quite strict. But you made me excited about theatre academically. I never thought I could act because I had a stammer. But you fired in my brain the love for the structure of a play, you know, the dramatics, the dramaturgy. I never thought at that time that could ever translate into actually taking that up professionally. And it's so incredible. This is what an educator can do. You light a fire when the person doesn't even want to be lit that way, you know. And imagine if I hadn't met you, and I remember Mrs. Kasturi Kanthan as well, the two of you, I would not be here on the stage. So thank you so much, ma'am. Really, really thank you. And thank you for being a professor who really believed in the dialogic. It's very easy for professors to make learning a one-way street, but you made it. You made a conscious effort in our college for students to come to you, and truly the Soka Gakkai values dialogue over, you know, any other form of communication, and you really lived that. So thank you again for that. Nandita, much for your answers, and now the floor is open to questions.
You're overlooked. You talked about being, invisible at times, right? How did you deal with rejection? And I ask this on behalf of many people who come to me asking this. What was the belief that kept you going when it came to dealing with rejections?
Rejecting an idea, they're rejecting the idea and not you. Because the moment you think it is about you, then you can just disappear.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I have been an extremely below average student, and I didn't score well. I wanted to study literature. I could not because I didn't score well. What would you say to people in society who do not score well, or maybe they want to study a certain subject? How would you encourage them to walk into that path?
See, the generation gap is as old as time, right? When we were young, our parents thought we were really reckless and rude and irresponsible. So I think that is part of how intergenerational narratives. However, having said that, I will say that yes, there has been an acceleration now, you know, and you do not expect a certain level of courtesy. In fact, it is better not to expect it, because then you are not taken aback when it is not offered to you. So you retrain yourself, okay? But I think the other thing that I'd like to say is that we can't blame the younger generation. They're living in a very fragmented world. They're terribly frightened. And I think we have to listen beyond their anger to their fear. Because what may sound as anger is actually coming from a place of deep uncertainty. Because especially post the pandemic and through the pandemic, the youth have suffered. So I think it's not about naming, you know, this, that and the other. And I think one of the virtues as older people, whether educators or whoever we are, with the younger people and environment is we have to develop a great capacity to listen without judgment. If they feel you're not judging them, they will actually tell you what is frightening them. Otherwise, all you're going to hear is very bad behavior, articulated in very poor language. So I think we should all start listening a little bit more. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Would often tell me, why don't you do more commercial stuff? Then even the stuff that you're doing, more people will watch it. But you know, I probably would be a different person then. So for me to preserve the person I am, and we've talked a lot about just being who we are, and I was remembering, is it an Oscar Wilde? Now we're all looking at you for quotes. Is it an Oscar Wilde quote that be yourself because everyone else is taken? So I think it was more about just sort of being yourself, and often you know, I'm labelled as, oh, she does all these serious, messagey, festival films. There are different words which are almost sort of meant in a derogatory way. Yeah, but because we come with this preconceived notion, you don't allow the film to speak for itself. And actually a good film is the one that touches the mind and the heart naturally, right, without sort of intellectualizing. And if you see my films, they're quite accessible. So sometimes it used to bother me because it sort of stops people from you know, watching it just because they're coming with so much of preconceived notion. But again, it's your conviction. I like to tell a story. I can only tell it my way anyway. When people say, oh, but you could have done this, oh, you could have made a feel-good film, you know, there was something more dramatic. Sometimes people want more drama. Our industry is such that our mainstream films are all about drama. And here I'm trying to explore the nuances of something. So sometimes people read my script and say, but there's no drama. What's the climax? You know, what's the payoff? There is a certain language of mainstream cinema, and if you're not following that trope, it's really difficult. But again, I come back to that sense of having that conviction that, you know, I want to tell the stories that I want to tell, and in the way that I want to tell. So yeah, you just keep at it, and you know, so I don't read any praises, any criticism. My reviews, interviews, many years ago, more than maybe 25 years ago, I had stopped reading all of it. Of course, that doesn't mean that you don't listen to responses. You know, you listen to everyone. Even when I do a script, I in fact share it with so many people. And people say, oh, but you should be precious, you shouldn't share it. What if somebody plagiarizes it? I'm like, no, it's going to be another film if somebody even directs that same script. So I think you listen to everyone and do what really resonates with you. So you don't shut people up, but you don't let them dictate how you're feeling and how you're thinking and what you really want to do. Wow, thank you so much.
This side, please. This side. Thank you. Thank you.
And a wonderful...
Thank you. Yeah, once again, this here, please. Thank you. Thank you.